Hello, welcome to Mystic Revolution. Susana and I are very excited that you're here to play with us in Season 4, Strengthening Soul Senses. We're going to go deeper into what are soul senses and why attend to our inner senses at all. But first, a little meditation. So let's notice that you have a body. And notice your weight in the chair or on your feet as you stand. Really feel gravity pulling you into the earth. And let's strengthen your consciousness of the connection between your body and the earth. Just let your body relax into a hug with Mama Earth. And rest, be inside your body. Perhaps you can sit your attention in the center of your head, relaxing your eyes and letting your attention sit like you're in a Barca lounger or sitting at the beach. And just sit your attention at the center of your head. And relax your eyes because you can't look back there. And one more thing, let's ask for a wonderful blue waterfall above your head, flowing from the universe, asking the universe for a particular vibration of blue, and I'm going to call that sacred truth or validation, or I'm okay, or I'm enough. And let this sacred truth flow through your body, all around your room. Let it flow mostly to the center of the earth, and let some stream around your neighborhood, bringing in the blessings, the divine blessings of the true for everyone. All right, enjoy your time sitting in the center of your head and grounded, connected consciously to the earth in the flow of whatever goodness you want to ask for from the universe, including the energy of validation. And you can just sit here and meditate if you'd like, or you can open your eyes and start to move around as Susana and I start to talk about strengthening our soul senses. Hey, Susana.
Hey, I'm so excited for this season and jumping right into the topic. So we say soul senses. And by that, I mean, if you've been watching us, you kind of get a sense of what we're talking about. We're talking about the our sensory capabilities, and I'm going to say extrasensory capabilities that augment the five senses that all of us, use every day, unless we have some sort of disability, in which case soul senses often get hyper enhanced. But we'll talk more about that at another time. Soul senses is another word for psychic. I know psychic makes people kind of freak out a little bit, but psychic comes from the word psyche. It's the Greek word psyche, which actually means soul. And so when we're talking about psychic capabilities, we're literally talking about soul senses. So I'm going to flip between these two words quite a bit. One of my sort of personal missions is to get people to feel comfortable using the word psychic, using the word psychical, like psychical development, where this is what, we're talking about in this season even more. All right. So does that all sound okay? I kind of just jumped in
That's
there.
awesome. Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
de-energizing these words are very helpful because if we can be really clear what we're saying, it helps.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So why strengthen your soul senses? Why strengthen your psychic senses at all? We've talked a little bit in past seasons about things like intuition and being an empath. But when you develop these senses in an intentional way, you can intentionally enhance your intuition, enhance your empathy in ways that don't overwhelm you, overload you. In fact, like use them in an even more intentional and exacting way.
Yes.
Also goes into like listening to your gut, trusting your gut. The more you practice building these senses, using these senses, the more reliable, the more your inner radar will be, the more you will begin to trust that you actually know. Like your soul knows. You actually have a really great built-in guidance system.
Yeah. Could I interject here?
Please.
On the whole, de-energizing these words, like it's funny how certain words are like, no, we can't have that. And other words are like, everybody says this. Like these days, empath or empath, being an empath or being empathic is just normal. People are talking about it all over the place,
Yeah.
regardless. Also in business, I understand, like I've heard a lot people talk about like vibe check or
Mhm.
whatever. It's all the same thing,
It's
you
all
know,
the same
your
thing.
gut, trust your gut. Like these are just normal things. Uh, we grew up in a world where we had to pay attention for our survival and for our well-being, for ourselves and others to be able to tune in to what's going on. And we develop senses that we can measure, like our, eyes and our ears, and we develop stuff that it's still hard to measure, but who knows what's going to happen in the future if we can measure these things. But still, if we, like you're saying, if we tune into being like, there's something not right here, or there's something very right here, like in relationships, sometimes it's just like, I've met this person before,
Right.
it's like that's
Yeah.
telling us something.
Yeah.
So anyway, go ahead. I just wanted to bring in more of that.
No, I love that. And it's so important because, right, what can these things help us do? Get more information.
Yes.
I've met this person before. That's fascinating. And so tune into your soul senses and you can learn more. And maybe you can catalyze a really interesting conversation with this person that goes beyond sort of the more mundane stuff that everybody talks about.
Right.
Um, there's also the idea of, telepathy, or like when you think something and someone else says the words that you're thinking, or brings up the same topic. I mean, the idea that we can communicate with each other without words sometimes, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
When we were young, we used to do this thing like you owe me a Coke, if you like finish the other person's sentence. Like, I
Oh,
don't know.
that's cute.
Yeah, it just was
Yeah.
a validation of like you took the words right out of my mouth.
Well, you took the words right out of your mouth. That's exactly what it is, right?
Yes.
Because I sensed the words and I just said them, even though you didn't say them. So, and this is normal. And when you know how to work with it, you can fine tune it. You can turn it up, you can turn it down when you want to. And it can be just something that really enhances your life, I will say. Um,
And I'd like to say something here, if it's okay.
yes, you don't have
Well,
to ask to say something, Wendy.
um, it's normal for everybody. Like some people come more naturally attuned and others don't. And some our families or our societies punch it down and some encourage it up.
Yeah,
But we all have these abilities. It's not like, I'm special and you're not, and I have it and you don't. It's not an on or off switch.
yeah,
Sometimes we have it switched off or on, but we can turn it up and down and we can practice and heal and move stuff to
yeah.
be able to and practice.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I mean, there are a lot of us out there who had these proclivities sort of emerge naturally. And when we tried to talk about it or get answers from people, right, it was shut down as something that was too scary, or don't be silly, don't be ridiculous, or
Yes.
you're too sensitive, or whatever messages people got. And so over time, you know, you start to turn them down, sometimes even unconsciously.
Mm,
So I work with a fair amount of people like that. I know you do too. And
yeah.
so the good news is we get to awaken those things. And like
Yeah.
you said, do the healing and moving and the shifting so that they can come through clearly or clarely, if you will, all the clairs, right? So that we can put them to good use.
Yeah, and it helps. I mean, I know we've talked about discernment, but it's like you can't get away from it. But if we can discern when who it's okay to be more or less real with and where it's okay to apply it, so then we can open up our senses, our perceptions, but we might not want to say something. And
Yes.
we can have that discernment. It's like I have conversations with people and I help people with healing. They're just like, I can't see it or I'll have to fix it. I can't see it or they'll reject me. I can't see. It's just like, no, there's a step between perception and action. And that's where the discernment comes in. Like if it's going to get you, burned at the stake, you might not want to say it.
Yeah.
But does it mean, but it's helpful to see it. It's helpful to see the
Yes.
patterns. It's helpful to see when the danger is coming. It's helpful to see who your friends are, what the lies are. It's really helpful.
Really, really helpful. Yeah. And I'm going to say, just because you have it along with that, right? You don't need to use it. I had someone say to me, well, if you can see and sense all these things, why aren't you just looking at everybody and seeing what they're thinking and what's going on with them? And I was like, oh my gosh, I would go crazy if I did that, right? But beyond that, it would be a total invasion of privacy and wouldn't be helpful to anyone. And so part of our practice is using these things with integrity, using these things in service, um, in a way that helps us and helps others. And at the core of this, right, all the things we talked about in Energy Mastery Season 2,
Yeah.
that's the practice. That's the
Yes.
discipline to make
Yes.
sure you aren't getting overloaded, you aren't frying yourself. Your discernment is like razor sharp. And that you can really, really trust.
And yeah, so being able to say, okay, I'm going to be walking down the street and I just want to be a regular person. So I'm going to turn down a lot of these senses. So I'm not reading all these people taking on all their energy, trying to heal them. I don't need to know it. And what I do is I set it so that if I really need to know something for my well-being, or somebody really, really needs me to pay attention, then then the little bell will go off. But otherwise, like, I don't care. Like,
Yeah,
it's like I like to read books. I don't need to read all the library books forever because they're there.
right.
It's like I
Yeah,
read the books that bring me joy.
yeah.
Yeah.
You can tune into that which brings you joy, which brings you wisdom, that which um, supports you in your next step.
Yeah.
That which will help heal a relationships. I mean, there's so many things. And what I want to underscore here is I read a post that someone who was in the psychic world posted about wanting to take a break from it because they felt that they were relying too much on information outside of them and they were giving up their power. And what I use the word underscore, I'll use it again, underscore it again, is our practice is just the opposite. When you are disciplined about the practice, it's about keeping yourself grounded and centered. It's about keeping yourself aligned. And then what you see and sense and perceive can be used again, right, to support your well-being, to support the highest and best good, all of that. It's not about giving away your power. And we'll get a little bit more into that when we talk about how to do a reading and how to best receive a reading. But I don't know, what are your thoughts on that, Wendy?
Yeah, I don't really know where they're coming from about it. But it reminds me of how we've joked a few times along the way about like somebody, oh, I killed somebody because the dog told me to do it, right? Like it's just
Mm,
like that's one of the circumstances where you can hear the dog, but not do the dog's will,
yes.
right? So like it's just such a odd, stark example. It's just like, okay, so the dog's talking, cats. I used to have trade with a friend of mine, and the cat would just sit there while we're reading and be just like, chicken, chicken. And it's just like, not getting it. It's like, I'm not, not
Oh
here to
my
do your
God.
will. So if it's
Yeah.
like that kind of thing, then that's a discernment issue. It's like,
Yes.
is this my will? Is this somebody aligned with my source? Is this my source, or is it me? Whatever the difference might be between me and my source.
Yes.
I think discernment really helps. And also discerning, like, so the person knew, the dog told them, but a lot of readers don't know where their information's coming from.
Right.
It could be what they call their guides, or it could be what they call a particular ascended master. It could be. So it helps to be able for ourselves to see ourselves, what's going on, to know ourselves from alignment with source into the universe. And then if we're hearing it, who is talking?
Yeah.
And if we're feeling it, who is feeling, et cetera, et cetera. Like
Yeah.
everything from here down, it's like really important to discern whose experience it is. And I also do want to say that I went too far. I went along the path as far as I could go, working with ascended masters at a certain point who I
Mhm.
love to work with. And I had to be just like, I was started to be like, well, you just tell me what source has, and then I'll do that. And
Mhm.
like that got me to a certain point, and then I had to just let that go.
Yeah.
And it was the question did become, what is my choice?
Yeah.
But that's pretty far along in the journey. And up until then, working with the Ascended Masters were the bomb for me. They're just very helpful.
Well, I think, yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, sometimes going to the edge of things, right? It's exactly what we need
Yeah.
to have that experience um and to realize the difference between when you are um I guess honoring that voice more than your own, what's in your own heart and soul.
Yeah. Because it was
Yeah.
just easier. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Easier.
easier. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it makes me think of, when I first picked up like tarot cards, or inspiration cards. People use those things. We talked about that in the provisions section in last season. And I would get all these cards. I would like read all these cards. I'd pull them, and I wouldn't get the answer that I wanted. And I just keep pulling them until I got the answer that I wanted. And looking back, I mean, I think everybody has done that point, or trying to make them fit into the answer that I wanted, instead of just being like, this is the answer that I want.
Yes. Yes.
This is the answer I want. This is what feels best and right and true. And, why was I spending hours and hours and hours trying to get the cards to tell me what it is that I actually wanted? I needed something else to validate myself. And, um, that's part of learning and growing, but
Yes.
it's also just, I guess, a little bit of a cautionary tale of how, we can give away our power to something other than ourselves.
Right. And also be like, who was determining the cards? Was it your higher self? Is it, like it's the same thing. And it's so interesting because it's like once I own, I want this, I want to go this direction, I want this relationship, then all the great questions open up. Like, how do I do it? And where are the pitfalls? And what muscles do I need to develop to go there? Like such wonderful questions open up if I can own, this is what I choose.
Right. Yeah, this is what I choose, rather than, if I do this thing, will this relationship work out? or what do I need to do to make this relationship? Well, you want the relationship to work out, I'm guessing.
Right.
So if you want it to work out, yeah, what do you need to do or not do? What do you need to take responsibility for or not to
Yeah.
put things in motion? And then we can use our soul senses to really tune into that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I can look and I might look and be just like, I see the downside here. I might want to re-choose. Or wow, this is hard, but look at the brightness about it or whatever.
Yeah.
Instead of feeling like I'm wiggling around some higher power thing,
Yeah.
and running the game or something. It's just like, no, this is the game and look at all the brightness. It's just you got to run the 90 yards or whatever.
Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
And I'm not dissing tarot cards by any stretch. I mean, obviously we pull cards and do all sorts of stuff before our shows sometimes. And I think for inspiration, for validation, um, like to help in the fine tuning of the thing that you're already allowing yourself to have.
Mhm.
That's how I feel like I like to use them best. I mean, people use them. There's no right or wrong way
There's
to
no way.
use them, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I do think when you have the ability to hone in your soul senses, then what you get out of divining tools can be even more exacting.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
not thrown to use them. Um, and when I do use them, I like them for when I'm on my own trying to read myself because it
Mm,
can be like a good, it's just like a different perspective. Oh,
yes.
okay. And it helps me see what I couldn't see
I love
from this
that. Yeah, that's
perspective.
really good. That's really
Yeah.
good.
It's not my usual thing, but I have used it like that.
Hmm. I feel like we're ready for a break.
Thank you, We Are Historically, for your conscious human apparel. Shop online at wearehistorically.com.
Hey friends, Susanna and I want to remind you that we offer a Mystic Revolution meditation. It's the first Tuesdays at 4:30 Pacific. Please come as our guest. You can see our website for the link. And thank you for playing with us.
Raise your vibration and energize your life with specialized Fibonacci tuning forks that deepen meditations and empower self-healing. Get your vibrational sound tools for personal enhancement at energybodytuners.com.
Hello, welcome back to Mystic Revolution. And this is our first episode of season 4, Strengthening Soul Senses. And Susanna's doing a wonderful holding the structure for today. I really appreciate it, Susanna.
Well, thanks. I think you're holding the structure, but that's how we work. And I mean, with that, I know that you had some interesting things that you wanted to add about discernment and about communication. And so please, I'd love you to just jump in with that.
Yeah, something that like when I don't know about you, Susanna, but when I'm training new psychics, what I do is as soon as they can see, as soon as they're like, oh, I see a hammer, oh, I see a dog, like they're starting to perceive. And immediately I'm like, okay, so the next question is, what's he healing to say?
Mm,
Um, because some things that we see, depending on need to be framed in a context that can be heard. And also some things are just to not say. What's the healing to say? Um, and also getting permission, like to be reading or be healing is so important. And I know I've cringed, like what is it, the Long Island Medium or whatever, um, like shows like that. It's just people like totally force information on someone who hasn't asked for it.
mm,
Um, and I just feel like that's just, I mean, in my ethics, in my, about integrity, that just doesn't work.
yeah.
And so I think it's very important that someone's asking for information and then saying what is, is a healing for that. And do you have any feedback about that, Susana?
Oh, I think, yeah. I think that's a great question to ask. Just because you can see something doesn't mean you should say something. And especially when we're starting out, so many things impressions we get come in symbology, come as impressions or waves of energy that it's, for us to decipher what that means. And so allowing yourself, now we're getting, I guess, into like how to do readings and how to really discern that, but allowing yourself just to say, well, I'm getting this impression, I'm seeing something. I remember one of the first classes that I did this in, I was reading someone in class, and all I could see with this was this big, like, round eggplant. And it like kind of just took up this person's whole body. Now I could have gone off and thought, oh, they must want an eggplant. Maybe they're planting an eggplant garden. But what I just said to them is, I don't know what this means. I'm seeing an eggplant. And I see it around your whole body in the big round part right in your belly. That's all I said. And she was like, well, I just found out that I'm pregnant. Now, I wasn't turning into the pregnancy. And one could say, well, that doesn't mean anything. It's little muscles. It's little muscles, the shape, right? The organic nature, the voluptuousness of it, the aliveness of it. I mean, even, colors, right? And, the colors of that eggplant meant something to this person. So allowing yourself to take little baby steps and just let whatever, like, just jot down in notes or even say the symbol, and the person reading can choose to respond or reveal if they want.
Mm-hmm.
And I always set the stage. You can respond or share more if you like. Don't have to. I'm just going to tell you my impressions, right? If they ask for it. So, yeah.
I've become better at that than I used to be. Like I had a lot of doubt when I started, tremendous doubt, intellectual energy. And so I'd get more vague. I'd make things more vague. And of course, the more specific questions, the more specific answers. But I've learned it, it's doing this for like 20 years. I've learned to just really trust the picture, because sometimes the picture can so overtly tell them what's going on. And then other times I've learned if it's something violent or something really an uncomfortable picture, I've learned to circumambulate into it, spiral in and see.
Well, I
general,
think that speaks to like respecting people's boundaries, respecting people's feelings, respecting people's ability to hear or take in information.
Yeah, I did a reading once early, a couple of years into reading, maybe a year or two, and it was like a knife thing, and the person was wigged out, and like I'd realized that I'd done so much trading with other people who are just used to symbols and symbology and desensitized around stuff that I was like, what's the big deal? Like it's a knife cut, but she was disturbed by it. And so that carefulness, not everybody is where we are. And sometimes people have different things. So again, I wasn't looking hard enough about how to talk about this as a healing. And honestly, since then, like I've learned so much about what that symbology was. I didn't know, like I could just jump to what it means. was all
Yeah,
about her
rather
being
than
cut off from her body. Just
right.
cut off, like, and that's a much more comfortable way to say it.
That is a more comfortable way to say it. But, as you're learning, we're learning these things, everyone,
Yeah.
right? These things will come up. And if you get a picture that seems to, well, first of all, you can use your empathy to tune in to someone else, to discern whether or not there's someone who would be able, how to speak with them, like what
Yes.
kind of language, right?
Yes.
And what are they actually to hear? What do they come to you to read, right? People come to me for reading sometimes for very specific things, and if I see something else, they didn't ask me
Right.
for that.
Right.
It's none of my business.
Right.
That's the way I view it. And so
Yeah.
just those are just some things that we think about when we think about what makes a good reader. I guess I'll couch it that way. So
Yeah. Yeah.
using your empathy, using your discernment, respecting boundaries, honesty and transparency, like, right? I'm just seeing a red apple. I don't know what it means. It's actually okay to say, I don't know what it means. I'm seeing the color orange. I don't know what it means. That's being honest. And maybe it means something for the other person.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if we know what it means, then is it a healing to say? And
Yeah.
so it's a really interesting, it's such a fun game.
Yeah, it can be a really fun game. Um, and so when we are with people that want to play in this, I mean, that's why being part of community and finding people that you can play with and practice with, that's super helpful. And then if people seek you out to give a reading, like, allow it to be that question, is it a healing? Is it a healing?
Yeah. Yeah. And do I even have permission to be saying it?
And do I have permission? Right. And
Yeah.
the more you trust your gut, the more you tune in, the more you're able to use that empathy and compassion and discernment, you'll know.
Yeah.
You'll absolutely know.
So,
Yeah.
okay. Is this a
So
good closing time,
I
Susana?
guess it is. I guess the other thing, I just want to say one more thing. I think
Yeah.
part of the reason, like, the word psychic has gotten a bad rap is that it's been associated with certain pictures, and like the idea that people who use that word are automatically, I don't know, scheming something, or there's some level of unprofessionalism or something like that. And what I want to say about that is, if someone is doing readings, I mean, honesty, transparency, professionalism. Don't try and do something to make it seem, don't try to interpret something if you can't really discern what it is. I think that does a disservice to you, but especially to any client that might come to you. And so being professional about it, I mean, even basic stuff like respecting appointments, like all the things that go around what we think of being professional in this realm of soul senses, I think it can be really helpful so that people feel comfortable. You're on point, they know you're on point, and everybody gets out of there feeling good.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I'm
Thank
done.
you.
Yes.
Okay. So let's have a little meditation and we'll
Okay.
close.
All right.
So let's notice our grounding, our natural connection between our body and the earth. And let's take a deep breath and release, letting the body relax. And as we breathe, let's let go with our breath to the earth, releasing all this information and just keeping what's yours. You liked maybe a few gems that were like, yeah, that's true for me. Yeah, well, that's a good insight. And anything else, just let it go. We're just two people who have lots of experience and lots of training, but You are the authority. Just let go of Susana's energy and information and my energy and information, and breathe in and validate your own. Good. And you can please enjoy meditation, enjoy the blue waterfall of truth or whatever you're allowing in from the center of your head as we end our show. So if you want to, you can start to move around, and that's it. Thank you so much for coming and playing with us. Thanks so much, Susana.
Thanks so much for playing with us. Please support Mystic Revolution by liking and sharing our show.
And sign up to get notified when new content is available. We really appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Have a happy always.
Join us for our monthly Mystic Meditation on the first Tuesday of the month at 4:30 p.m. Pacific Time.
Click on the link in the description to get more information and join the Mystic Revolution.
We look forward to seeing you then.